It's Tuesday. I've got a full cup of coffee and time for Tuesday Tweaks. This week, we're talking about website performance. Page is loading a little bit slower. It's a little bit below average in performance. We can't have any of that. Let's get it fixed and help another Shopify owner succeed. Welcome to Tuesday Tweaks. All right, in this edition of Tuesday Tweaks, we're talking about website performance related to speed, not necessarily conversions. Conversions are always important, but this time it's about speed. Bruce has nominated his site, JackDoby.com. That's JackDoby.com. They make eyewear and prescription frames and in sunglasses, and it looks like a decent product and a nice site, so that's all great. But he's concerned that his site is loading too slow. And you know what? He's right. So what I did, I went out, I ran 3 different performance tests, and I found that the JackDoby.com site is currently taking about 750 milliseconds to load on average. Now, that sounds like a lot, and that's above our preferences as far as what we think best practices are for an e-commerce site, but it's not really that bad. If you take a look at that, and those 3 tests, and compare them and average the grade, you get probably a C minus, right? Just a little bit below average, not good, not where you want to be. We need to fix it. But just to put it in perspective, I did a site last week helping somebody with their site, and the site took nearly 5 seconds to load. It was crazy. So your site gets a C minus, that other site got an F. This is fixable, and it's important to fix it. So for everybody listening or watching this video, let's talk about why it's important. Not only is it for user experience, and there's such a short attention span, believe it or not, taking less than a second is important to get that initial customer experience and to make them feel better about your site. That's important. But also, Google penalizes sites that load slowly, especially on mobile devices, and mobile devices are so important these days. So the faster your site loads, the less friction for the customer, and the better SEO you're going to get. So it's important to get it fixed. Now here, let's talk about the why. Okay, so I ran this performance test, and it told me a lot. The first thing I want to talk about is the thing that's not a problem for the JackDoby.com site, but is mainly a problem for most of the sites when they have speed problems. Most sites have a problem with images being too large, right? They're not fully optimized. We did a whole blog post on this. In fact, if you got on our email list and you got our email last week, I just listed like the top questions we were getting and some of the content we'd written, this optimizing for speed and for SEO performance. That's all there. Go back and find that email because there's some good information in it for you. But this case is not the problem. So let me give you an example. This is a product, the Brooklyn Sun. I like this. I like how you have this little intermediate order right away button. If you want more details, you can get more details. And I did want more details, so I go here. So the size of the images that you have are not a problem. In this case, this image right here, that's that image. It's fairly well optimized. This image is only 36K. That's about as optimized for speed load as you can possibly get. All of the images I tested on your site are pretty much this way. Even the largest banner style images were only, the largest one I think I found was like 225K, which for a banner is not so bad. You're doing a pretty good job. So page speed is not being affected by image size, which is most of the time. So what's slowing down JackDoby.com? Well, the answer is deep in the code somewhere. So I know that in this case, JackDoby.com is working with the developers right now to fix their speed problems. And so some of these things may, by the time this gets posted live, some of these things may already be done because they only do one of these per week. But for JackDoby and for everybody else watching the video, let's run down some other things besides image size that can take and slow a site down. One of them would be number of service calls. Let's talk about what websites do. This is what it comes down to. This is what your website code looks like. Maybe you guys have seen it, maybe you haven't. This is the code that tells the browser what to show. It's just there. It's not pretty, and it's confusing, and it's intimidating the first few times you see it, but it's not a big deal, right? This is what it is. But I want to show you right this area right here because it's instructive. I'm going to show you. Let me circle these just so you can see them clearly. See all these things right here? These are external service calls. This is how a modern website works. You upload your site, you get it running on a server. It's sitting on a computer server in the cloud somewhere. Doesn't really matter where in this case. But then websites, they have this code, right? This code gets downloaded to your browser, and then your site has to, it's calling out other places. You can see this in case right here. I'm going to try and highlight this a little bit right here and say right here, right there, this line right here, cdn.shopify.com/assets. This is a call to CDN, stands for Content Delivery Network. Shopify has one they've set up for themselves, and that's where your images are stored. So this is an example of a website calling out to get something done. That image is not loaded with your site on the main server. The images are kept separately on a server that's specifically designed and laid out to deliver things like images very, very fast. So your site saying, okay, here's my site. Wait, go over here to this box and get my picture. Boom, it does. And lo and behold, a picture pops up. They do it dozens of times. Now, the number of calls a site makes can be a problem. In this case, it's not, but I've seen some pages with hundreds of these calls, and each one takes a little amount of time, right? Each one takes a little bit amount of time. That's a problem. But that's not the problem here. The JackDoby.com site on this homepage has a total of 63 service calls. Anything below 100, I think you're probably in safe zone, but again, the lower the better. I'll show you how to reduce that a little bit on this one. So lower the better. Those are the top two reasons why sites are slow. Too many service calls, and then also images that are downloading that are too large. Those are two top reasons that I bump into why pages load slow. Another one is that one of those service calls, and see, it's not just images. Backtrack a little bit. All the apps that you install on your site, all the web services and paid for services that you run, they all take time. They're running in your site, they're putting code in your site, and then your website is doing the work of whatever that code and those service calls tell, doing all of that heavy lifting, right? Your site is processing all of that stuff, and all that stuff takes time. Well, of those 63 calls, 2 of them aren't working properly on your JackDoby.com site. It's that simple. One of them is bouncing around. Now, this may or may not be something you can fix. Maybe it's incumbent in your service or whatever it is, but the call is going out from your website, and then that call has been being forwarded to someplace else. And so that doubles or triples the amount of time that particular call makes. Now, believe it or not, if you can fix it, great, but I'm not super concerned about that particular web service call. What I'm worried about is this other one. There's one in there that is going to a place that doesn't exist. That's right. You have one of those service calls is going out. Now, picture it this way. Think of it that your website is going out and knocking on doors. So let's say that you have a delivery coming to your house, and the UPS guy is coming up to your door with a package. He may knock on your door and he'll wait. Well, if you don't respond or say hello or open the door in 30 seconds or so, he's going to knock again. Now, most of the time they just leave the packaging door and go away, right? But follow me with this. If he's really persistent, he might knock a third time. Well, see, your website does the same thing. If it goes out in making a web service code call to another external app or service or something else on another server, it's got a setting in there telling it how many times to knock on that server's door, how many times to ask for the door to be opened, and how long it's supposed to wait. Well, one of the service calls that your site is making is not getting a response at all. So your website is knocking on that door a few times. And then it's getting a call back saying, hey, there's nobody home. All that is probably taking 100, maybe more than 100. I'd be willing to bet it's taking at least 100 milliseconds. I'd be willing to be the chop 15% off of your load time just by fixing this one call. That's just my instinct on it. The developers will tell you the real number, whatever it is, but I believe that's going to be the case. Get that particular code fixed. I hope that makes sense. Now, what can cause things like that? The most common thing that causes things like that is that there's some sort of a code change or an update that's made by an app or a third-party service, and they aren't thorough in cleaning up all the junk in their update. But the most common thing is where Shopify store owners will try an app or will try a service, or they're using one app or service and then they change to another one, and all the code from that thing that's not being used anymore is still on the site somewhere. calling someplace that no longer exists. So for example, if you had some sort of a shipping app and then you go to another shipping app, but you have JavaScript code or something else in your site it's connecting that app to your external service, and then you stop paying them, they just turn it off, but that code is still on your website. Make sense? Okay, look at that. I'm shaking my finger. You can't see me, but I'm shaking my finger and admonishing you to look at it quickly. One more thing I want to touch at. We're not going to talk about marketing or conversions on this because Bruce's questions were specifically related to page speed. That's what we're going to fix. The one more thing I want you to see is down here. You can take, and I want you to look at this section right down at the bottom. First, the good. This is a lot of payment methods. I think however the customer wants to throw money at you, you let them throw that money. So especially when sites are new, you don't have market power. You can't tell customers how to pay. Customers are telling you how to pay. So I say as many payment options as you can support, go ahead and support. Makes the customer feel comfortable, builds confidence. They can pay in the way wherever they have their money is how they can pay you. That's all good. But I want you to notice something. Each one of these is a separate image. There's 11 of them. I'm not going to go through and circle them all. There's 11 of these things down here, right? There's 11 of them. That means there's 11 separate images loading. Remember we talked about before about how websites are calling. So each one of these is being called separately. It's saying, your website's saying, okay, get me the Amex logo. Boom. Okay, now get me the Apple Pay logo. Boom. Okay, now get me the Diners Club logo. Now get me the MasterCard. And it goes through one by one. Now each one of these files is super tiny, right? But the problem is it's doing these one at a time. And every time you have a call, it takes a few more seconds off the clock, right? So what you can do, I noticed something. See this? These aren't links. These aren't clickable. I'm clicking on it right now. Can you hear me? Here, listen. I'm clicking. Nothing's happening because these aren't linked anywhere. They're just separate images lined up at the bottom. So what if you put these in a little graphic arts file or had us do it for you and made them one image? Now, it may or may not reduce the total file size. I think it'll actually reduce the file size. So if each one of these is, say, 10K or 20K, so call it 20K, that's 220K, right? I bet you if you put them in one image that you can get that thing down to, say, 150K or even smaller than that, probably even smaller, a lot smaller than that. So the size is maybe reduced, but in reality, you'll go from 11 image calls to one. If you do these two things, this is the low-hanging fruit, this is the no-brainer stuff. Fix the JavaScript calls or the service calls that are going out there that are not getting a positive response. Get these images merged on your homepage, and I'll bet you go from a C- to at least a B on your page speed just by doing those two things. You might even get more than that. That may solve 90% of your issues. We'll find out. But for you and for everybody else watching this video, those are the first things to look at. Page speed, probably solved. This is Jeff for TaskHusky. Hope this has been helpful. We try to, our goal is to make everybody happy, make everybody more successful so that we all succeed together. That's the deal for Tuesday Tweaks. Talk to you next time.